Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a completely revolutionary new business model for AI. It's called Train Now, Pay Later. Look, if you follow AI at all, you already know the tension out there is literally at a boiling point. Data creators feel, well, robbed, right? And developers, they're feeling totally gated by these massive upfront costs. But CODATTA's latest framework proposes a really fascinating way to completely realign those incentives.
So we got to start with what is arguably the biggest question in tech right now. How do we actually make AI data acquisition fair for creators without making it just insanely expensive for developers to build? Because right now, let's be honest, it kind of feels like a zero-sum game. Either developers are scraping data without permission, or the data licensing is so prohibitively expensive upfront that only the massive tech giants can even afford to build state-of-the-art models. So how do we break that stalemate?
To answer that, here is our roadmap for This Explainer. First, meet, train now, pay later. Second, the developer workflow. Third, a win-win-win ecosystem. Fourth, why blockchain is essential. And finally, number 5, the minimum viable substrate. All right, let's jump right in. Section 1, meet, train now, pay later. So what exactly is TNPL? Well, think of it kind of like a flipped business-to-business version of buy now, pay later. Under this model, developers get the data they need to build their models immediately, without a massive upfront purchase. Then, and this is absolutely the crucial part, if and only if the trained model actually creates value, royalties flow back to the data owners. It defers the cost until the value is actually realized, perfectly aligning the developer's success directly with the compensation of the data contributor. Moving right along to Section 2, the developer workflow. This workflow is actually a super straightforward 3-step progression. Step 1, you, the developer, request access to the data and agree to the TNPL terms right up front. Those terms establish your royalty rates, specific KPIs, and sunset conditions. Then, Step 2, you just start training and evaluating your model. And while you do that, the protocol is quietly working in the background, securely tracking your data lineage in a sort of digital escrow. Finally, Step 3, you launch and earn. When the model actually starts making money, smart contracts automatically split the proceeds. There's no chasing invoices, no messy legal battles post-launch, just seamless payouts exactly as defined by those initial terms. Which brings us to Section 3, a win-win-win ecosystem. Now, it is incredibly rare to find a business model where all participants genuinely benefit, but TNPL manages to structure exactly that. Notice the direct contrast here between our first two groups. For developers, this is a total game changer. It drastically reduces upfront cost and totally unblocks experimentation. Instead of blowing your budget acquiring a dataset that might not even yield a good model, you get to keep your cash focused on finding actual product market fit. On the flip side, data contributors win big too. Instead of a cheap, potentially undervalued one-time buyout, they secure a fair, long-tail income stream. And that payout scales with real adoption, tied directly to the measured, verifiable use of their specific data. And the third winner in this ecosystem, well, that's the protocol itself, the platform actually facilitating these exchanges. Because the barrier to entry is so low, the protocol sees maximized data utilization. It effectively attracts builders of literally all sizes, from solo indie devs to massive enterprise teams. Plus, because royalties are continuously flowing as models succeed, it creates these recurring economic flows that strengthen the demand for the protocol's token and treasury. That ensures the platform not only survives but thrives. So basically, everyone has a vested interest in the continuous successful use of the data. Now, if you're a developer or an engineer watching this, your alarm bells might be ringing right about now because, sure, this business model sounds brilliant in theory, but it begs a really massive technical question. How do you actually track data lineage and enforce these complex microtransactional payments automatically across the entire globe, especially without relying on some centralized middleman? That leads us directly to Section 4, why blockchain is essential. Because to make this theory a reality, traditional databases simply won't cut it. We need some very specific technological primitives. Look at these first 3. First up, programmable ownership. This allows for fractional, time-bound ownership that can literally update as staking or verification evolves. It's totally dynamic. Second, we have provable provenance. By putting digital fingerprints on chain, every single data contribution becomes auditable. We know exactly who contributed what. And third, automated payouts. Smart contracts route these micro-royalties instantly and globally, which entirely removes the administrative nightmare of manually paying out thousands of individual data contributors. Continuing down the stack, blockchain also provides open market access. Basically, anyone can discover and license this data without being trapped inside corporate walled gardens. Then there's composability. You can think of this like financial Lego blocks. Ownership fractions can be repackaged into discoverable portfolios, allowing users to tune their risk and return dynamically. And finally, privacy by design. This is a really clever hybrid model where the actual sensitive data stays securely off-chain, while only the hashes, POOS, and policies live on-chain to satisfy enterprise governance and strict regulations.
And that brings us to Section 5, the minimum viable substrate.
So a substrate is essentially an underlying layer or foundation. Programmable ownership, provable provenance, automated payouts, composability, and privacy. These aren't just some menu of nice-to-have features you can pick and choose from. Combined, they form the mandatory functioning substrate for a true royalty economy. They are the exact things that make per-event micro-royalties economical, global, and secure enough for even the strictest enterprises to actually adopt. To really drive this point home, the CODATTA framework states it perfectly. Without this full set in concert, attribution becomes unenforceable, settlement becomes unscalable, or markets remain closed, conditions under which TNPL and per-use royalties cannot thrive. In other words, if you remove even one single piece of this blockchain stack, the entire concept of fair AI data attribution completely falls apart. Which leaves us with a pretty provocative final thought here. If this specific, open, blockchain-based substrate is literally the only way to enforce fair attribution and scalable settlement for data creators, well, how fair is the AI ecosystem we're currently relying on today? The train now, pay later model proves a more equitable system isn't just a pipe dream. The blueprint is already here. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and definitely keep questioning how the models of tomorrow are being built today.